Good afternoon, Trailblazers fans. Welcome in to another of Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you, getting you ready for Blazers versus Raptors as your Portland Trailblazers look to extend their win streak to 5 in a row after an impressive win over the Miami Heat last night, and continue to Donovan clinging, to the play-in. Things are looking pretty good for the way this team is playing right now. We'll hear an update here in just a little bit when we head to the coaches' corner on if Deni Avdija is playing or not. Last we checked, he was listed as doubtful. Did kind of tweak his back in that game last night. Was taken out early in the third quarter. Did not return to the game. Coach Tiago Splitter said it was just a precautionary thing. Deni Avdija reiterated that, said that coaches out there, sometimes protecting him from himself, making the best choice for the team, and there's still a lot of season left. So just taking the precaution, make sure that he's healed up, and probably the best thing to do if he can't go tonight because you got a road trip here and you got to go to Boston, take on the Celtics, and you want a healthy Deni for that if you can. So we'll see if we can get an update there as soon as possible. But the Blazers come into tonight's game sitting at number 9 in the standings. They are 23-22, over 500 for the first time since November 12th when they were 6-5. This is the first time that they are above 500 in the month of January since 2021. So things are looking pretty good for your Trailblazers, who are 9-2 in the month of January. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games. Only 2 other teams in the NBA have an 8-2 record or better over their last 10. That is the Clippers and the Detroit Pistons, who are both 8-2 in that same span as well. So the Blazers, again, looking to continue their hot play, and it's going to be a tough one tonight against a Toronto Raptor team that comes in at 27-19, fourth best team in the Eastern Conference. So not going to be an easy one for the Blazers tonight. Hopefully they can patch it all together, though, figure it out. It does look like Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant will play. They were listed as questionable, so that will be good for the Blazers tonight to have a little bit of reinforcement if Deni can't go. But still, with the way this team is playing, it's going to be a competitive ball game. And this next stretch, the next 5 games, really, 4 of the next 5 games, my friends, 4 of the next 5 games are against teams that are currently in the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, in the top 6 teams. They got a game coming up tonight, obviously, against Toronto. That is the fourth team in the Eastern Conference. Then they end up going on the road a little bit. They're going to take on the Boston Celtics, who are currently number 2 in the East. They will take on the Washington Wizards, so they get a little bit of a reprieve because the Washington Wizards are second to last, are tied for it, basically last place in the Eastern Conference, one of the worst teams in the NBA this season. And then they have on the road in New York and back home against Cleveland, which are number 3 and number 6 in the standings in the East. So a little stretch of tough games here that you would hope that the Blazers can pull it out, get it together, and just play good basketball, much like they did last night against the Miami Heat, a game that honestly at halftime felt like it was going to go down to the wire. It was a close game, and it felt like Miami was going to make this Trailblazers team work. And they did. They just blew past them in the second half. End of the first half, Nikola Jovic makes a layup. It's 64-63 in favor of the Blazers, and you're trying to see what needs to happen the rest of the way to continue this offensive flow, get any semblance of anything, right? And the thing is, Deni Avdija played well, but he only played 18 minutes because he hurts himself in the third quarter. But then Shaedon Sharpe has one of the worst halves of his entire season, if not his career. In that first half alone for Shaedon Sharpe, he was 1 of 8 from the floor. He had just 3 points and 4 turnovers. He had more turnovers than he had points. You need him to flip the script. You need him to improve. You know that you need a good game from Shaedon if you're going to hope to pull away from this tough Miami Heat team, especially with Deni Avdija out for that second half. And the good Shaedon Sharpe is what you got, because in the second half, he was 10 of 13, 4 of 5 from deep, 24 points and just 2 turnovers. Also had 2 steals, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. So he went from having one of the worst halves of the season to having his best half of the season. The Blazers outscored the Heat 39-29 in the third, outscored them 24-18 in the fourth to pick up a 127-110 victory. Now looking at the box score, seeing how things broke down individually, of course, because that's how we like to see these things out. We'll start on the Miami side of things. Andrew Wiggins had 14 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. Bam Adebayo, a massive game, 32 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals and a blocked shot to lead all scorers as well. 18 points from Trailblazers legend Norman Powell, who did something he does not do very often. He went 0 of 7 from beyond the arc, and the Heat were led on the bench by Simon Fontecchio, who had 17 points. On the Trailblazers side, again, lots of balance. 6 different players in double figures, led by 27 points from Shaedon Sharpe. Like we said, a massive second half from the Blazers shooting guard. Denny Avdia, unfortunately, he got hurt because he was well on his way to a massive game, because in 17 minutes of action, he had 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. So he was going to put up a box score for sure. Toumani Camara, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 of 9 from the field. That's on the back of the game in Sacramento right before that, where he was 7 of 7. So a nice little shooting stretch for Toumani Camara. Donovan Clingan did struggle a little bit, 7 points, 8 boards. They needed the rebounds. That was good. Had a hard time kind of staying in front of Bam Adebayo, because Bam is very, very athletic and quick for a center in this league. I wouldn't say exposed Donovan, but definitely made Donovan work and caught Donovan flat-footed a few times. So Donovan didn't get too involved in the offense. Defensively did what he needed to do, picked those boards up, which is great. 15 points and 7 assists from Drew Holiday. On the bench, the Blazers were led by Caleb Love with 20 points, 12 points as well from Jeremy Grant. So that's how that game rounded out. Good balance. Everything kind of went the Blazers' way. But when you start looking at things, my friends, you're like, okay, the Miami Heat had more points in the paint. They had more second chance points. They had more fast break points. They had fewer turnovers, and they had more points off turnovers. They also took 94 shots. They shot 45%. What was the difference in the game? The difference was the three-pointers, because Miami came into this game, again, a good three-pointing shooting team. They took 45 three-pointers in this game and made just 9 of them. That is 20% from beyond the arc. On the other side, the Blazers, who are a notoriously poor three-point shooting team, were not so much on this night. 50 three-pointers. They made 20 of them. That's good for 40%. And also, when you make 11 more three-pointers than the other team, I mean, that's a 33-point difference just in three-pointers. So a good performance from the Trailblazers. They needed that. And as Brendan said when we had him on with us, helping us during the fifth quarter, he said the Miami broadcast reiterated multiple times, and once again, the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA hits an open three against the Miami Heat. They were just not liking the fact that the Blazers were having a good night, had to keep hammering home, worst three-point shooting team, worst three-point shooting team. Well, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug, all right? Well, Blazers were the windshield in this one, and you got to give them credit for that. Can they continue that hot shooting tonight against Toronto? We shall see. It's going to be a tough task, as always, to continue the way the offense has been playing, but they've been healthy. They've had their guys back. And yesterday, they found ways to hit shots. What they need to do tonight against Toronto that they can't do like they did last night, at least I don't think they can, because someone is going to eventually stop it, and it's really going to bite them in the rear end, is especially when they were playing Miami, you could see the difference in ball movement offensively. Miami slings that ball around. Every single play is built off of movement, guys moving off screens, lots of dribble handoffs. It's just constantly trying to confuse the defense. Meanwhile, Portland, especially after Denny went out, it was straight just like set a pick and then see if I can beat my guy. There was lots of isolation stuff that just was not working, and still somehow they made shots. Like, it was like, okay, nobody's moving. 2 guys are sitting in the corner. We got 1 guy up top just trying to work around his defender, but they can't make anything work. But they can make shots. Some nights that will work, some nights it won't. So we're going to need just a little bit more ball movement from this team tonight against Toronto, again, who comes in. And I've been praising Toronto on the show with you guys multiple times. They are far better than I think anyone thought they would be this season. They're finding ways to play just really, really good team basketball and still kind of true to their identity, where they can get you on both ends of the floor on any given night. Anyway, this is Blazers Game Day, my friends. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. You can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. You can also join the conversation with me. Go on over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, get in on the chat there. Hit us up on the brand new. How long till we just call it the text line? Is it still brand new? I mean, it's only been around for like a month or so. But hit us up on the text line, 88528. You can send us a text and join the conversation there as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this Toronto team a little bit. A little mix-up to the lineup here tonight because we're going to move the Coach's Corner back a segment. We'll get to that eventually here from head coach Thiago Splitter as well. All that and more coming up on your home, the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. Burkhardt here with you, getting you ready for Blazers versus Raptors tonight. And Dirtmock Prince jumps in on the chat already, says, shut down quickly. Is it really that simple? Yeah, but no. I guess it's game plan. Easier said than done, right? As the Raptors come in, and as we mentioned, still one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. They're putting it together. They play good team ball. Emmanuel Quickly has been very good this year. 5 different players for this team averaging in double figures, led by Brandon Ingram, who has found a home, was cast off from L.A., cast off from New Orleans, and he's been very good here in Toronto. Scotty Barnes is still Scotty Barnes. Both those guys averaging right around 20 points per game. Emmanuel Quickly averaging 17 points, 6.3 assists. R.J. Barrett has had a very good run here. He's played 23 games this season, and last we checked, he's questionable. Trying to see what the update is on him. And they don't have Jakob Poeltl, who has played 21 games this year, averaging 9 points, but you know that he can still get to work on the glass, still rebound well. So they have a couple guys out, but still, they got Ingram, they got Scotty Barnes, and as our commenter said, Dirtmock Fritz said, Emmanuel Quickly, who's very good. So I would say the good part here is, hey, you put Drew on Quickly, and you got a good matchup there to stop him, and then you really make Tumani and company work against Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, and we'll see how this thing all shakes out. But if you don't have a guy who's big and beefy down low like Jakob Poeltl, then maybe it's one of those Donovan Clingan type games where he can absolutely go off if you need him to. So we shall see. We shall see. Now we will head to the coach's corner here in just a little bit. We're waiting to get some audio from him. Had to move some things around to get to the show tonight. As Chad took my equipment, and I had to be like, oh, I got to use your other equipment, Shacker. He's like, well, that's equipment we use to get Coach Sound live. I'm like, well, guess we're not getting Coach Sound live. That's how you do the show sometimes. But we do have an update coming from the press room, courtesy of our Trailblazers reporter, Sean Hyken. Follow him on social media at Hyken. Denny, Time Lord, and Dwop are all out tonight. So no Denny Avdia, no Robert Williams. Robert Williams was 100% to be expected. Dwop is a scratch that I don't think anyone saw coming. And, yeah, Denny definitely out as well. Did not play most of that second half last night with the back, who we already missed a few games with. You definitely don't want to push it. You don't want to put him in a position to re-injure that thing, especially as we mentioned with the pretty good stretch of games coming up, this game included. I mean, over your next 5 games, 4 of them are against top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. And the team that's 6 is not bad. Like the teams that's 6 is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So let's be honest here. This is a tough stretch of games. So you want to have your guys as healthy as possible, as often as possible through that stretch. So no Denny Avdia tonight for your Portland Trailblazers as they take on the Toronto Raptors, who are 27-19, 4th in the Eastern Conference. And again, very good team. It's a team that I think is playing better than a lot of people thought they would this season, and that's good on them. Good coaching, good balance of that roster, and to be where they are is great. Their last win was over the Sacramento Kings, 122-109. They got a win over the Golden State Warriors the night before that, 145-127. And then, again, why do you focus on Emmanuel Quickly? Well, in that game against Golden State, he dropped 40 points. In that game against Sacramento, he was their leading assist man with 8. So he's going to find ways to beat you and impact the box score in various ways. He's a very, very good player, and not just because it's his last name, but very, very quick as well. So hard to guard. You really got to work to stay in front of him, which is interesting because I was really watching Drew Holiday on defense yesterday, and one thing I noticed about him when I compared him to like Shaedon Sharpe, and Shaedon Sharpe can get blown by his guys sometimes. Drew Holiday doesn't get blown by that often. And one of the things I started to notice is like if a defender attacks Shaedon Sharpe, he takes like an outfielder drop step, where as an outfielder you open up those hips and you get that foot back and you start going towards the baseball. You open up all the way. Drew doesn't do that. Drew is all his movement is like a defensive back. It's all super, super quick in the hips while the upper body stays fluid to where he's trying to guard. So if his hips move and start taking him in the opposite direction, his body is still in front of his defender. It reminds me of a top-tier defensive back in the NFL where all the work that they do is hips, 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 hips. And maybe you find ways to get that into Shaedon Sharpe's training regimen a little bit. But again, I think it's one of those little things that sets a good defender apart from a great defender. And I always remember an interview long ago from Brandon Roy who said when he's on defense, he doesn't look at eyes. He looks at the player's hips because the eyes will lie, but the hips won't. The hips will tell you where they're going to go. And so you can watch the hips of the offensive player, have a good idea where you're going, and then use your own hip rotations to really stay in front of them on the defensive side. Just a little thing that I noticed as I was watching Drew Holiday, who's very, very fun to watch on the defensive end. One of our texters says, is it wrong of me to think every time Sharp goes for a dunk to want to know how high and what's the score? That'd be a good element. I need instantaneous feedback every single time he jumps. The broadcast needs to tell you that was a 42-inch vert and what the dunk score was. I get that. I do have my little pushback here though with the vert number is they were breaking down the dunks of his over the season on the pregame show the other day, talking about how he leads the league in 40-inch verts on his dunks, and that they used the one in Sacramento where he was like horizontal and like they measured to his feet when he was horizontal. And they're like, it was 47 inches. And I'm just like, that's really not how a vert works. Like, I mean, if that were the case, every single time I jumped, I would do like a half flip and like land on my hands and then roll and be like, yeah, like I may have only got like 2 inches off the ground, but my heels were like 70 inches off the ground, like or whatever. Like that's not how verts work. It's from the point of the jump to where you stop, not where your body decides to go parallel to the floor and add a couple inches to that vertical. Just thought that was a little bit funny myself, but I would love it. Give me the dunk scores. Tell me how high he jumped, and then just continue to just dunk on people's domes, man, because he's been absolutely incredible. And one of the things that's been a nice revelation over the last few games is, boy, that connection between Caleb Love and Shaedon Sharpe on those alley-oops is something, ain't it? They've had a couple really, really good 1-2 combos over the last handful of games, and that's one that you're like, okay, I could see more of this. Damian Lillard's over there on the bench going, okay, well, I guess I have to work on my lob passing a little bit. Really haven't had to use that during my previous time here in Portland. But you know how Hassan was like, we got shooters. Well, now you got dunkers. You got levitators. You got bouncers. Yeah, going to have to learn to throw those lob passes. So those have been some nice things to see as well. And speaking of Shaedon Sharpe, what I loved his game last night, even despite the fact that first half was arguably the worst of the season, if not one of the worst of his entire career. The reason I still loved that game was it was clear that either he had a talk with himself or a coach talked to him or whatever it was, but he adjusted at halftime. And what he did in the second half, completely different than what he did in the first half. I loved the ability to shake off a bad half and not let that linger and then get into a position where you can make plays. That's a hat tip to Shaedon Sharpe. A good performance from him in that second half led to a great game. Now, just give it to me for 2 halves in a row. That's what I want. Kirk in the chat says, Blazers are making the playoffs. At this pace, that just very well might be the case. One thing we need to watch very, very closely is what's going on down in Golden State. You obviously heard the news of them losing Jimmy Butler now for the season with the torn ACL, and so that forces them to move their lineups a little bit. Now we know that there's a little bit of a falling out, that Coach Kerr isn't the biggest fan of Jonathan Kuminga, and he's been rumored in different kinds of trades. He's demanded a trade. Then you get the GM saying, well, you can demand a trade, but there needs to be demand to get traded. Kind of a little sideways, backhand, like, yeah, you haven't done enough to really demand a trade. But he does get forced into a little more playing time with Jimmy Butler out. And in the game against Dallas on Thursday, when Golden State lost 123-115, Kuminga played just 9 minutes before injuring his knee and his ankle and leaving the game. So now you're down Kuminga, you're down Jimmy Butler, who was your second best player. Draymond Green is in and out of the lineup. Like you still got Steph Curry, who is phenomenal, but Draymond Green played in that game last night. He scored 4 points. He's not going to get you through a lot of games on the offensive side of the ball. You need more than just Steph, who dropped 38, which is great. But you need some help. And so with those injuries and just their overall roster not being great, that's something to watch, because as you look at the standings, they are just slightly ahead of your Portland Trailblazers, sitting in the 8th seed, a game and a half ahead of Portland. Just a game and a half. That's a pretty good spot to be if you're Portland, considering the schedule's getting easier. That Golden State team might take a few more losses because of just the impact of those injuries. I mean, Jimmy Butler's great. He is a great player. He impacts wins and losses big time. Now you have the Clippers, who are still trying to gain ground. Blazers have a 2.5 game lead over them at the moment, so Portland just needs to keep winning. Win, 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 as much as you can. And this, like I said, this stretch is going to be a little bit rough, but then you come back home. Eventually you get the back-to-back against Memphis, which Memphis currently 18-24. They're struggling just a little bit this year, so you'd hope you can get those. And as I've told you guys a few times, you still got 2 games against Washington, 2 games against Indiana, 2 games against Brooklyn, and 2 games against Charlotte remaining on the schedule. Those are the 4 worst teams in the Eastern Conference. So the Blazers have wins they can take advantage of, but things just got really, really interesting with what happened down there in Golden State. Like, is Steph Curry enough to keep that 5-game cushion that they have between Memphis right now? Maybe. He's Steph Curry. He's absolutely incredible. But they're going to lose some games here because he can't go out there and win it for you every single night playing 48 minutes. Blazers need to take advantage of what's being laid out in front of them and hopefully get Denny back soon and then continue to rattle off some wins like they've been doing, looking to win their 5th straight tonight. It would be their 10th in their last 12 games. They would improve to 12-2 on the season, already the best team in the NBA in the month of January, 8-2 in their last 10 games. And like I said, only 2 other teams are 8-2 or better in their last 10 games, the Los Angeles Clippers and the Detroit Pistons. All right, this is Blazers Game Day. I am your host, Chris Burkhardt. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also hit us up on the text line. 88528 is the telephone number. Kirk says, I think the Blazers could get the 7th seed and play the Spurs. That would be fun. And, you know, Kirk, like, I think getting into the playoffs is huge. Now, obviously, the 7, 8, 9 and the 10 seed are your play-in teams, and Portland, if you get into the 7, would have a good spot of figuring some stuff out. But, man, I talked about this the other day. I think a playoff series at this point, because there's the camp that wants a draft pick and there's a camp that wants to get to the playoffs. I think at this point, getting to the playoffs and getting a playoff series would be absolutely incredible for this team. Even if you lose, even if you get matched up against the Spurs and they bounce you in 4 games, man, you got experience. You did your traveling, you did the media circus, because it's always a little more intense come playoff time. You played in front of the intense stadiums, because arenas are always a little more intense during playoff time, and you got that experience, which is huge for a young team moving forward. So you want to get to the 7th seed, you want to get a matchup with the Spurs when it's all said and done, I am all here for it, my friend. That's right. Dirt Monk gets it. Build the Death Star. Don't just keep accumulating Legos and then worrying about how many you need. Just start building. Just start building. If you get all the way to the end and you're missing one little gray piece, then you call Lego up and you order it and you complete the Death Star. Dang it. Don't keep looking at the box. Don't worry about the collectibles and what they could be worth down the road and what you could get on your return on investment, a.k.a. trades and asset acquisition. I could trade this Death Star piece and I could get a piece for the Millennium Falcon. No, we're building the Death Star, guys. Dirt Monk gets it. Start building. Face forward. You can only sit there and go, I want draft picks so many years in a row. You gotta put the best foot forward, which they're doing right now. That's why they're above 500 in January for the first time since 2018. 21. We're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, we'll see if we have audio from Coach, and we'll continue to get you ready for Blazers versus Raptors here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. We are just awaiting on some coaches' audio. Michael Shacker is working feverishly behind the scenes. If he can get it done, we will play it. If not, we did get the information we definitely were looking for already, and that was the fact that Denny Avdia is out tonight. So is Time Lord Robert Williams and Duop Reith. Also, I totally just had a very funny slip of the tongue, and I don't know why I almost said Time Lord Robin Williams. Maybe it's because I was watching videos on Mrs. Doubtfire the other day. That could be it. What a goat. That guy was so good. So funny. What a legend Robin Williams was. All right, back to the conversation. Basketball, though, if you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. And, of course, you can hit us up on the text line as well. 88528 is that text number. And I want to point out one of our comments real quick, because it's funny. Kirk commented, I don't think the Spurs matchup, I don't think the Spurs would be that much of a favorite over us if they were to be in that hypothetical matchup. And the first thing I did was pause at that and kind of laugh, Kirk. I was like, yeah, come on, Wemby and company. And then his very next comment was, Denny being a superstar has changed everything. And it's like, you're not wrong. I think it's changed a lot about this team. I think it's changed, their trajectory, what we think their max can be moving forward. And I've said it multiple times, Kirk, and it can never be stated enough, really. It's just like I do not believe that when they traded him, they thought they were going to get a guy who was going to be in the all-star conversation this quickly, if ever. I think they were getting a guy who they knew had upside, had shown versatility in Washington to go do all these little things, but it was still, and I talked about it early in the season, they want Shea to be the guy, which I still think they want him to take that leap to be an actual, superstar. And, they have Scoot and they have all these young guys. Denny's going to be a piece, and now it feels like, no, he's not. He feels more like the foundation, and things have changed very, very quickly with the way he's playing, and the fact that he's doing it at a consistent level is even more impressive. And I think it's funny, too. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I wish I had the ability to play it here. But if not, just go on social media and just type in Wizards Denny, and the video will pop up of their GM saying he was asked if it was a mistake to trade Denny, and he said, quote, "No, it was not a mistake. We're all very happy for Denny. We saw Denny as a very high-level ascending player, but no, we did it for the reasons we said then, which was to take us back a couple of years so we could reset this roster and so that everybody was on the same age curve, and Denny's ahead of that." Well, I find that extremely laughable because they traded for him, or traded him out because he wasn't on the same age curve as the rest of his roster. And then they just traded for Trae Young, who is 2 years older than Denny Avdia. And Trae Young will probably end up getting that contract extended and all that, because remember, he requested a trade, and then his preferred destination was Washington, and here they are. Now, of course, there was a lot of that. Washington may have been the only team willing to make the trade, so of course you go out there publicly and say it's your preferred destination. But point is, you traded for a guy who would still be considered a young star at 27 years old, but you traded for a guy who is 2 years older than Denny, and then you roll out in front of the media and you say, we traded Denny because his timeline didn't fit. Who cares about timeline fit with the money he's making? Also, I'm just going to be 100% with you guys. As the young kids say, I'm just going to keep it a buck. Timeline is the most overblown nonsense. If you're trying to win, you put the best players on your roster. I don't care if you have a 25-year-old start next to a 35-year-old. If that is your best roster to win games, you do it. And Also, if you really are trying to build your timeline around everyone being close to the same age so they can all grow together, there is not a big difference between having a 25-year-old star with a bunch of 22-year-old young kids coming up. That's a 3-year difference, y'all. In fact, I think it's probably smart to have that one guy who's that 25, 26-year-old, and then a bunch of the 21 and 22-year-olds. So as they build and they get great together, and the old player starts riding into the sunset, maybe you built it up so those young guys are still in their prime and taking over. You overlap those things. I think this whole like, oh yeah, we got to get it on the career arc. We were fed that baby food for every single time we had to listen to the previous GM. Career arc, not on Dame's career arc. Bleh, stupid. No. Career arc? Half the guys in the NBA are only in this league for a handful of years anyway, so you get what you can to put together the best team you can on the court right now. Now, if at the same time you can balance that out and put the best team on the court 5 years from now, 6 years from now from what you're building, great. But no. We traded Denny Avdia. We saw really good potential, but, we want to reset and get guys who are more on the timeline. He's 25 years old. 25 years old. All right. It is time, my friends. We do have some audio to play because Michael Shacker is an absolute beast behind the scenes. It's time to head to the Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner with Tiago Splitter, live from the Coors Light Studios. Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill.
All right, let's hear. Let's hear from head coach Tiago Splitter. Bueller.
Better health and talk to the doctor and sit down and explain a little bit, and he's all right.
Is he going to go with you guys to Boston? Yeah. So he's day to day.
I'm not sure what's the term or how we call that. It's not on me to tell that, but yeah, he's going to the East Coast.
What about kind of tiptoe into that, hoping that this doesn't become a weekly thing where he kind of tweaks it, and you know what I mean? Do you consider sitting him out for a couple games?
Yeah, so that was a little bit my thought. Like when I saw that, I know, being a player, I know how these guys want to fight through injuries, but I don't think, that he should be fighting with that pain right now. I think he should just be smart, rest, get that 100% right and come back. So that was my thought process in the game, and the same today.
Do you know if any update on Dwap and Rob?
Yeah, I mean, Wap is also out, Rob is out. Rob back-to-backs, as you guys know. Wap has some soreness on his foot, I believe the right foot. So yeah, so he's out as well.
And they're here from head coach Tiago Splitter. Big thing to take away is that Denny Avdia will go on the trip with the team as they head to Boston to play on Monday. I would also monitor that situation and see if times could change because of the storms coming through, hitting the Midwest and the East Coast. You've already seen a couple teams change their tip-off times. Boston is pretty used to the snow, but it'd be interesting and definitely something to watch, see if that impacts the Blazers at all. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we come back, it's time for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to get a victory over the Toronto Raptors? We'll let you know when we return here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Time now for our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to take down this Toronto Raptors team? Well, first, I want to point out that this Toronto Raptors team is very, very well balanced, and that's one way they can beat you. They're good defensively. Offensively, it's not as if just because Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes are the big guys, and Quickly is great too, that they don't have others that can get you. You look at that starting lineup, especially in that game against Sacramento, which was their last win, 122-109. Brandon Ingram. Svili, which is always fun to say, 22 points. Brandon Ingram, 23 points. Scotty Barnes, 23 points. Emmanuel Quickly, 18 points. Jamal Shed, 15 points. Grady Dick had 11 as well. That's just good balance. Everyone's scoring. So they're going to find a way to attack you in multiple ways, and the Blazers need to be ready for that because they will find ways, they being the Toronto Raptors, to move the ball, keep you guessing. They come into the game averaging 29.7 assists, which is the fourth most in the NBA. So that is ball movement, and that is efficiency within that offense. It allows all those guys to get balanced. So defensively, they're going to have to be locked in, much like they were against Miami. Three-point shooting-wise, too. Interesting note here, and you saw this if you follow Tom Habistro on social media. The best win-loss record in the NBA with 33-plus three-point field goal percentage. So best win-loss record when you shoot 33% or better from beyond the arc. The Blazers are fifth in the league. They are 18-6 when they shoot better than 33%. The bad part is the Blazers are currently dead last in the league in three-point percentage at 33.9. So they don't shoot over 33% that often, but the numbers bear out that when you shoot good from beyond the arc, this Blazer team tends to be in really good spots when it comes to winning ball games. So get locked in, make sure those three-point shots are falling, and you'll be in a good spot. Now again, we've tended to focus on Donovan Clingan a lot in these games, but this is another one. They don't have Jakob Poeltl. That's the big center. You got to be careful not to be too exposed. You saw what Bam Adebayo was able to do against Donovan Clingan. That speed and athleticism was able to get by him pretty quickly. And you don't have Robert Williams in this one to have any sort of extra help on the defensive end. You may see a little more Young Hansen, especially since you don't have Dwap Reith. You need Jeremy Grant locked in. Point is, without Jakob Poeltl, Donovan Clingan needs to really be aggressive on the glass again. This is one of those games where he could end with 12 points and 16 rebounds. Be aggressive. All right, music means it's time to go for me, not for you. Coming up next, Curtis Long has the Trailblazers pregame show across the Trailblazers audio network, and then he'll hand the mic over to Travis Demers for the call. Blazers versus Raptors tip-off at 7 o'clock. And, of course, you know what to do. When it's all said and done, keep it locked in to Rip City Radio for the fifth quarter, where hopefully we're breaking down a Trailblazers victory. Blazers, Raptors, tip-off in a little over an hour, all right here on Rip City Radio. Rip City, I'll talk to you after the game.